Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to see you here again. If you enjoy my stories, don't forget to give this video a like. It really helps me out a lot. I'd also love to hear what you think, so drop a comment down below and let me know if you liked today's story. And if you want, feel free to share your own love stories too. I'd be super excited to read them. The sun was dipping low over the Seine, painting the city in shades of gold and rose. Paris had that kind of magic at twilight, when the streets hummed softly and every corner seemed to hold a secret. I was strolling along the riverbank, my hands tucked into the pockets of my coat, listening to the soft splash of the water and the distant accordion playing a familiar tune. And then I saw them. Sitting on the edge of the river, sketchbook open, pencil moving gracefully across the page, they were completely absorbed, unaware of anyone else, as if the world had narrowed down to the strokes of their pencil. There was something magnetic about that focus, something that made me pause mid-step. "Hi," I said softly, not wanting to startle them. They lifted their head, eyes meeting mine, and I felt it immediately, that curious mix of surprise and recognition. "Hello," they replied, their voice calm, warm, carrying a hint of a smile. "What are you drawing?" I asked, stepping closer. For a moment, they hesitated. Then, slowly, they turned the sketchbook toward me. My breath caught. It was me, sitting exactly as I had been a few moments ago, completely unaware, perfectly captured in pencil lines. I laughed, half in shock, half in delight. "You drew me." They nodded, cheeks coloring slightly. I noticed you from the bridge. You looked interesting." "Interesting?" I asked, smiling. I don't know if that's a compliment. They laughed quietly, a sound that seemed to blend perfectly with the river. "It is. I promise." We spent the next hour sitting by the river, talking like we had known each other for years. We shared stories about our lives, our favorite books, and our dreams. Paris seemed to bend around us, as if the city itself was holding its breath, giving us this moment alone. As the sky turned from gold to deep violet, they finally said, "Would you like to walk with me? I know a place nearby where the lights of the city are reflected perfectly in the water." I nodded, and together we wandered along the Seine, letting the city guide our steps. For the first time in a long while, I felt like Paris wasn't just a city. It was a promise of the beginning. And somehow I knew that this was just the first of many evenings that would change my life forever. The next morning, the city was waking up slowly. The soft light of dawn filtered through the narrow streets, and the aroma of fresh croissants and coffee seemed to float in the air. I made my way to the little cafe by the Seine that they had mentioned the night before, wondering if they would really be there. And there they were, sitting at a small round table outside, sketchbook closed, hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, their hair catching the morning light. "Good morning," I said, smiling as I approached. "Good morning," they replied, their eyes sparkling. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I answered, sliding into the chair across from them. We ordered coffee and croissants, and for a moment, we just sat there, watching the river flow. The city felt quiet, as if it had paused to let us enjoy this simple moment. "So," they said finally, "tell me something about yourself that no one else knows." I thought for a moment, then laughed. "Well, I've always wanted to learn how to play the accordion. I even bought one once, but let's just say it didn't go well." They laughed, a soft melodic sound that made my chest feel warm. "I think Paris might forgive you for that. Or maybe even help you." After coffee, we decided to explore Montmartre, the neighborhood of artists and winding streets. The cobblestones were uneven beneath our feet, and every corner seemed to hide a story. A tiny gallery, a street musician playing a violin, a bakery with pastries so sweet they seemed almost unreal. We wandered up to the Place du Tertre, where painters displayed their work. They paused in front of a portrait of a woman laughing, pointing out the delicate strokes. See how the artist captures emotion? That's what I love about sketching. Not just the face, but the feeling. I nodded, intrigued. I think that's why I'm drawn to your sketches. It's not just what you see, it's what you make me feel. Their cheeks flushed, and we walked on, the conversation flowing effortlessly. We found a small, quiet terrace overlooking the city, and for a moment, we simply sat there, letting Paris wrap around us like a warm blanket. As the sun began to set, painting the rooftops in gold, they turned to me with a playful grin. "Do you want to see something magical?" "Always," I said. They led me down a hidden staircase to a small rooftop garden, tucked away above the bustling streets. Lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, and the entire city stretched out below us. The Eiffel Tower twinkled in the distance, and for a moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the world. "Paris has a way of showing its secrets," they whispered, "if you know where to look." And in that moment, standing together above the city, I realized this wasn't just a chance meeting. This was the start of something extraordinary. Night fell over Montmartre like a velvet curtain, the streets glowing with golden lamplight. The neighborhood, alive during the day, seemed to take on a quieter, more intimate personality. We wandered past small galleries and cafes, the faint strumming of guitars and laughter floating through the air. "I've always loved Montmartre at night," they said, tucking a strand of hair behind their ear. "It feels like the city is whispering secrets to you, if you're willing to listen." I nodded, captivated. "It's magical. Almost unreal." We stopped in front of a tiny cafe where a street musician played the violin. The music was soft but haunting, filling the narrow street. Without a word, they reached for my hand. The warmth of their touch sent a shiver down my spine. "Dance with me?" they asked, a playful glint in their eyes. I hesitated for a second, then let them guide me. There was no room to move, the cobblestones uneven beneath our feet, but somehow it didn't matter. We swayed slowly, moving to the rhythm of the violin, laughter escaping us in quiet bursts. Afterward, we continued walking, taking narrow alleys that twisted up the hill, past galleries where paintings glowed in the dim light. We came to a small square, empty except for a fountain trickling softly. They sat on the edge, pulling me down beside them. "Do you ever wonder," I asked, "if moments like this can last forever?" They smiled, looking at me with a softness that made my heart ache. No moment lasts forever, but some moments stay with you like echoes. We talked for hours about art, dreams, the little fears we never share. The city seemed to lean in, listening with us. At one point, they leaned closer, brushing a stray hair from my face. My pulse quickened. "Paris changes the way you see the world," they whispered. "And sometimes, it changes the way you see yourself." And then, without a word, our lips met, gentle at first, tentative, as if testing the waters of something new. Then, a little more insistently, as the city around us seemed to fade. The world was just us, the soft sound of the fountain, the glow of the streetlights, and the gentle rhythm of our hearts. We stayed there for a long time, holding each other, letting the night stretch endlessly. I felt a quiet certainty that this night would be remembered forever, even if everything else in life changed. Finally, as the stars blinked overhead, we rose, hands intertwined, and continued our walk down Montmartre's winding streets. Every corner we turned seemed more alive, more vivid, because we were together. That night, Paris wasn't just a city. It was a story, our story, beginning to unfold. The morning after our Montmartre night was quiet but filled with a sense of anticipation. We met at a tiny cafe tucked behind a row of blooming chestnut trees, the scent of fresh pastries mixing with the crisp spring air. "Do you want to explore something different today?" they asked, eyes sparkling. "I know a few hidden corners of Paris not many people see." "Absolutely," I replied, feeling a flutter of excitement. We wandered through narrow streets, discovering small art galleries and antique shops. In one, we met Elise, a lively young woman with bright red hair and a mischievous smile. She owned the gallery and immediately took a liking to us, inviting us for a private viewing of her paintings. "She seems fun," I whispered. "They are all fun," they said with a grin. "Paris is full of characters like this. You just have to find them." Elise introduced us to her friends, artists, musicians, and writers, each with their own stories and passions. We laughed, shared stories, and even tried our hands at sketching together. The energy was contagious, and I realized how alive Paris felt when you truly connected with its people. After leaving the gallery, we stumbled upon a tiny courtyard garden, almost hidden between two buildings. Ivy climbed the walls, and lanterns hung like fireflies. It was perfect. We sat on a stone bench, the city buzzing faintly around us, and shared a small picnic of cheese, bread, and strawberries we had bought earlier. "Paris has a way of hiding magic," they said softly. "You just have to know where to look." We talked about everything: childhood dreams, fears, favorite books. I told them about my secret love for old movies, and they shared stories of their family, their sketches, and the little things that made them smile. For a moment, the world seemed to shrink to just us, the courtyard, and the city humming softly beyond the walls. I felt closer to them than I ever had with anyone, as if Paris itself had nudged our paths together. Then, as the sun began to dip low, we wandered back through the streets, hand in hand, discovering tiny bakeries and little bridges crossing hidden canals. Each corner brought a new surprise: a street musician, a mural painted in pastels, the smell of fresh bread wafting from a boulangerie. By the time we returned to the Seine, the sky was painted in shades of pink and gold. We leaned against the railing, watching the reflections ripple across the water. "You know," they said, "I think we're starting to collect Paris one secret corner at a time, and we'll have stories for a lifetime," I replied, squeezing their hand. Paris was no longer just a city to me. It was ours, full of hidden magic, laughter, and the start of something I knew would change both of our lives forever. The next morning, gray clouds rolled over Paris, promising rain. I was halfway down Rue Saint-Honoré when I saw them waiting under a small awning, a mischievous grin on their face. "Rainy day adventure?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Exactly," they replied. "I know a place where the weather doesn't matter." We ran through narrow streets, laughing as raindrops splashed around our feet, until we ducked into a small, hidden bookshop tucked behind a faded green door. The bell above the entrance jingled softly, welcoming us into a world of old paper and ink. The shop smelled of dust and vanilla, of stories waiting to be told. Tall shelves stretched to the ceiling, each filled with books of every shape and color. We wandered down the aisles, occasionally picking up a volume and reading snippets aloud, laughing at old poetry or marveling at illustrations. "This place feels like it's outside of time," I said, running my fingers along a row of leather-bound books. "That's why I like it," they replied. "You can hide here, forget the world, just exist." We found a corner with two small armchairs, pulling a stack of books onto the floor. For hours, we shared our favorite passages, whispered about stories that shaped us, and talked about the dreams we'd never told anyone. The rain pattered against the window, a gentle rhythm that made the shop feel like our private world. At one point, I noticed them staring out the window, lost in thought. "What's on your mind?" I asked softly. They looked back, eyes glistening with quiet emotion. "I think I've never felt this comfortable with anyone. Not like this. It's terrifying and wonderful all at once." I reached out, taking their hand. "I feel the same, and I don't want this to end when the rain stops." They smiled, squeezing my hand gently. Then let's make a promise to find more days like this no matter what. Eventually, the rain eased, leaving the streets glistening under a soft afternoon light. We stepped back outside, still hand in hand, and wandered along the Seine, umbrellas forgotten. The city seemed washed anew, shimmering with reflections of Parisian rooftops and puddles, each corner holding a new secret waiting to be discovered. By evening, we found a quiet bridge and leaned against the railing, watching the water ripple with the fading light. Paris isn't just a city, I said quietly. It's the moments we live here, the memories we collect. And some of them, they replied, are just for us. As the sky deepened into twilight, I realized that every raindrop, every hidden corner, every whispered word had brought us closer. And in the city of love, Paris had given me something I would never forget, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I had found my place. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly baked bread and coffee from the boulangeries along the street. Today felt different, as if Paris itself was holding its breath, waiting for something magical to happen. They're having a masquerade tonight at the old opera house, they said, eyes sparkling with excitement. It's a tradition among some of my artist friends. You have to come. A masquerade? I asked, intrigued. Masks, music, dancing? Yes, they replied, grinning. And secrets. That's the best part. By afternoon, we were wandering through hidden studios and galleries, meeting painters, sculptors, and musicians who all seemed to live in their own creative worlds. One artist, a tall man with a gentle smile named Julien, introduced himself and insisted we try painting together on a large canvas set in the courtyard. You two are like Paris itself, Julien said, laughing as we dipped brushes into vivid colors. Full of life, full of surprises. As we painted, I noticed a hint of friendly competition from another young woman, Sophie, who had been watching us closely. There was a spark of curiosity, and perhaps a tiny twinge of jealousy, in her eyes whenever our brushes brushed against each other's. By sunset, we prepared for the masquerade. They helped me adjust my mask, a delicate creation of lace and velvet, while they wore one adorned with feathers and gold paint. The anticipation in their eyes made my pulse quicken. The opera house was breathtaking. Candles lined the grand staircase, chandeliers sparkled like captured stars, and the scent of roses filled the air. Musicians played a haunting waltz as masked figures glided across the marble floor. They led me into the crowd, our hands entwined, and suddenly it felt as if the city had disappeared. The only reality was the music, the masks, and the quiet electricity between us. At one point, a masked stranger brushed past us, whispering something in French I didn't understand. They laughed, and I realized it was part of the fun, the mystery, the unknown. Paris is full of surprises, they whispered, leaning close so I could feel their breath. And tonight, we're the surprise for each other. We danced, moving with the rhythm of the orchestra, the world blurring into swirls of color and candlelight. Every step, every glance, every touch felt charged with emotion. For the first time, I understood why they called Paris the city of love, because it could transform even a single night into something unforgettable. Later, as the night wound down, we stepped onto a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of Paris twinkled below, a sea of gold and silver. Do you ever think about the future? I asked softly. They smiled, eyes reflecting the city lights. I try not to. I want to live tonight fully, because tonight is ours. And in that moment, standing together under the moonlight, I realized that Paris had given us something more than magic. It had given us a connection that no mask, no distraction, and no moment in time could ever diminish. The morning sun spilled gently over Paris, warming the streets and casting a golden glow on the rooftops. We met near Luxembourg Gardens, each carrying a small basket filled with treats: fresh baguette, cheese, strawberries, and a bottle of sparkling cider. "I thought we could have a little picnic," they said, smiling as we walked along the tree-lined paths. A proper Parisian escape. The gardens were alive with color, flowers in full bloom, children laughing as they sailed miniature boats in the fountain, and the soft hum of the city in the distance. We found a quiet spot under a large chestnut tree, the grass soft beneath us, and laid out our blanket. We ate slowly, savoring the flavors and each other's company. Between bites, we shared stories we hadn't told anyone else, childhood memories, dreams we carried in secret, the small quirks that made us who we were. "I've never felt this connected to anyone before," I admitted, glancing at them. "Me neither," they replied, their hand brushing mine. "It's like Paris brought us here for a reason." After eating, we lay back on the blanket, watching the clouds drift lazily across the sky. They rested their head on my shoulder, and I felt a quiet warmth spread through me. "Do you think we'll ever forget days like this?" I asked softly. "No," they whispered. "Moments like this stay with you. They become part of who you are." Later, we wandered through the gardens, stopping by the fountains and the hidden statues tucked among the flower beds. We laughed as we chased the pigeons, shared quiet secrets in secluded corners, and took turns sketching each other in our little notebooks. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, we found a small bridge overlooking a quiet pond. The water reflected the sky in shades of pink and gold, and for a moment, the city felt like it had disappeared. They turned to me, eyes soft and full of meaning. "Paris has a way of showing its heart," they said. "And today, you've seen mine." I smiled, feeling the same. "Then I guess we're collecting hearts as well as memories." We stayed on that bridge until twilight, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers and the promise of more adventures. And in that quiet, sun-drenched garden, I realized that love in Paris wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about these small, intimate moments that built something deeper, something lasting. The evening air was cool, carrying the faint scent of bread from a nearby boulangerie and the soft murmur of Parisian streets below. They led me through a narrow alley I would have never noticed, up a hidden staircase, and finally onto a rooftop that felt like our own private world. Lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, casting a warm, golden glow across the terrace. The city stretched out before us, rooftops, chimneys, and the glittering Eiffel Tower in the distance, each light reflecting in the Seine like scattered diamonds. "This is incredible," I breathed, unable to hide my... "They don't let many people up here," they said softly, eyes shining. "But I wanted you to see it. Paris has a way of holding secrets, and some are meant for two people only." We sat on a worn blanket, sharing a bottle of wine as the sky deepened from pink to indigo. The city pulsed gently below, distant music drifting from streets and cafes. It was quiet, yet alive, like the heartbeat of Paris itself. We talked for hours, our conversation drifting from dreams to fears, from favorite childhood memories to small confessions we'd never shared. The vulnerability between us was new and thrilling, a fragile trust that neither of us wanted to break. At one point, they leaned back, gazing at the stars. "Do you ever think about the future?" they asked quietly. "I do," I replied. "But somehow, when I'm here with you, I only want this moment to last." Their hand found mine, fingers intertwining naturally. "Maybe that's enough," they said, voice barely above a whisper. "Some moments are meant to define us, even if they don't last forever." The city lights twinkled below as we leaned closer, sharing a quiet, lingering kiss. It wasn't rushed or urgent. It was deliberate, full of meaning, a promise and a memory all at once. We lay back on the blanket, side by side, letting the cool night air wrap around us. I felt a sense of calm, a certainty that despite whatever the future might bring, this rooftop, This night, this connection, would stay with me forever. As the stars appeared one by one, Paris seemed to hum beneath us, alive with stories, secrets, and love. And in that hidden corner of the city, I realized that we were no longer just visitors in Paris. We had become part of its heartbeat, woven into its magic in a way that nothing could undo. The next morning, Paris was bathed in a soft golden light, but there was a subtle tension in the air that I couldn't quite name. We had planned to meet at a small gallery tucked behind Rue de Rivoli, a place they had described as full of surprises. Inside, the walls were adorned with vivid paintings and abstract sculptures. The scent of paint and turpentine mingled with the warm aroma of brewed coffee from a small corner cafe inside the gallery. As we wandered through the exhibits, laughing and commenting on the artwork, a woman approached, tall, elegant, with sharp eyes and a confident smile. "Ah, you must be the famous Parisian artist everyone's been talking about," she said, turning to them. "I'm Sophie. I've heard so much about your sketches." They smiled politely, but I noticed a subtle change in their expression, a mixture of recognition and slight wariness. "Nice to meet you," they said, shaking Sophie's hand. "I've heard about your exhibitions too." Sophie's gaze flicked to me, lingering a little too long, and I felt a twinge of unease. "And you are?" she asked, smiling. I introduced myself, trying to mask the sudden flutter in my chest. Sophie's eyes sparkled with curiosity and, perhaps, something competitive. Throughout the gallery visit, she stayed close, often commenting on their work with exaggerated enthusiasm, laughing at jokes that felt slightly forced. Afterward, as we stepped out into the sunlit streets, I noticed them hesitate before taking my hand. "Sophie is competitive," they said quietly, almost apologetically. "Competitive," I repeated, unsure of what to say. They shrugged. "Let's just say she has a way of inserting herself into things. It's harmless, I think, but it's enough to make you second-guess." We walked along the Seine in silence for a while, the energy of the city shifting around us. I realized that Paris, for all its beauty, could also test us, challenge us, not just with the city itself, but with the people who moved within it. By the time we reached a quiet bridge, they turned to me with a reassuring smile. "No matter what, I want you to know, you're the one I'm with." "That hasn't changed." I smiled back, squeezing their hand. "I know, but I admit, I felt it, that little spark of doubt." They laughed softly, leaning close. "Good. Because love isn't just about perfect days and magic rooftops. It's also about holding on when things feel uncertain." We stood there, overlooking the water, letting the ripples reflect the sunlight. Paris reminded me once again that love in this city wasn't always easy. It was beautiful, complicated, and sometimes tested, but every challenge only made the moments of intimacy and trust feel that much more profound. The clouds gathered quickly that afternoon, turning the sky a deep gray over Paris. I found myself walking nervously toward the Pont d'Arts, the streets slick with early rain. I didn't know exactly what I was expecting. Maybe an apology, maybe answers, maybe nothing at all. They were already there when I arrived, umbrella in hand, looking out over the water as the rain began to fall in gentle sheets. "I didn't think you'd come," they said, a faint smile tugging at their lips. "I had to," I replied, pulling my coat tighter around me. "We need to talk." They nodded, and for a moment, neither of us said anything, listening only to the rhythmic patter of raindrops against the iron railing. Finally, I took a deep breath. "I know about Sophie. I saw the way she tries to get close, and I have to admit, it made me feel uncertain. I've never felt jealousy like that before." Their eyes softened, and they reached out, brushing wet strands of hair from my face. "I didn't want it to affect us," they said quietly. "But I see now. I should have been more open with you. You're the one I care about. Always. I care about you too," I said, voice trembling slightly. But I need to know that I can trust us. That Paris isn't going to sweep us apart just because someone else exists in the city. They stepped closer, hands gently holding mine. Paris won't. We won't. You have my word. And I mean more than words. I mean every sketch, every moment, every rooftop and bridge we've shared. Those are ours. The rain fell harder, drenching us both, but somehow it felt cleansing rather than cold. I laughed softly, the tension breaking, and they laughed with me. You know, they whispered, leaning close, sometimes love in Paris isn't about forever. It's about moments, yes, but some moments are worth fighting for. I nodded, feeling the weight of uncertainty lift just enough to leave space for hope. Then let's promise. No matter what, we'll hold on to this to us. And as the rain poured down around us, mixing with the city lights reflected in the Seine, we shared a long, tender kiss. It was a kiss full of reassurance, of trust, and of a love that refused to be shaken. That afternoon, I realized something important. Even in a city as vast and unpredictable as Paris, love could find clarity. Even amid storms, even with rivals and doubts, it could anchor you, if you were willing to fight for it. The morning was quiet, almost eerily so. Paris seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew something was about to change. We met at a small cafe near the Seine, the streets emptying from the early rush of commuters. They stirred their coffee slowly, eyes distant. I've been thinking, they said softly. About us. About the future. My heart tightened. I had a feeling I already knew what was coming. I might have to leave Paris soon, they continued. An opportunity has come up, an exhibition abroad, something I've worked my whole life for. But it conflicts with everything we've built here. I swallowed hard. I see. My mind raced. If they left, would we survive the distance? Could love that had bloomed in the streets and rooftops of Paris withstand time zones and flights? They reached across the table, taking my hand. I don't want to leave you, but I also can't ignore this chance. I have to choose, but I don't know how to choose both. I looked down at our entwined hands, feeling the weight of the city around us. The bridges, the gardens, the hidden corners that had become ours. Paris gave us this love, I said slowly. And Paris will always be here. But we have to decide if this is stronger than the city itself. The hours passed in silence, the gentle clink of coffee cups and distant chatter filling the space between words we couldn't yet say. Every possible scenario played out in my mind, leaving, staying, fighting for love across continents, letting it go. Finally, I met their gaze. I don't want to lose us, I whispered. And maybe we don't have to. Maybe love isn't just about being in the same place. Maybe it's about holding on to what we have, no matter what the world throws at us. They smiled, a mixture of relief and lingering worry. I hope you're right. Because Paris brought us together, but I don't want it to keep us apart. We left the cafe hand in hand, walking slowly along the Seine. The city stretched endlessly around us, beautiful and indifferent. We knew the choice ahead wouldn't be easy, and that the days to come would test everything we had. But for the first time that morning, I felt a quiet certainty. Whatever we decided, Paris had already given us something that distance and time could never take. The memory of a love that had bloomed in its streets, rooftops, and hidden gardens, and a promise that no city could erase. The evening air was crisp, carrying the scent of chestnuts roasting from street vendors along the Seine. We met at our favorite bridge, the one where so many of our conversations had begun, the one that had witnessed our laughter, our secrets, our first kisses. Hard to believe this might be our last walk together, they said softly, their hand brushing mine. It doesn't have to be, I replied, though my voice wavered. We just have to be brave enough to hold on to what we have. We walked slowly, letting the city's lights reflect in the water, each reflection a reminder of the countless moments we'd shared. The cafes, the rooftops, the gardens, they all seemed to whisper our story back to us. At a small cafe tucked along the riverbank, we paused for a moment, ordering coffee to warm our hands. We sat by the window, watching Paris glow in the night. "Do you remember our first walk?" they asked, smiling at the memory. "By the Seine when we first met?" I nodded, smiling back. I remember thinking, Paris is magic. But I didn't know it was magic because of you. They reached across the table, taking my hand, their eyes full of a mixture of hope and sadness. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to remember this. That Paris gave us something no one can ever take away. Something real." We left the cafe and wandered toward Montmartre, retracing our favorite streets, pausing at every hidden corner that had been ours. Street musicians played softly, the city's heartbeat echoing ours. At the top of the hill, near the Place du Tertre, we stopped. The city stretched out beneath us, a tapestry of lights and rooftops. I pulled them close, feeling the warmth of their body and the steady rhythm of their heart. "I don't want this night to end," I whispered. "Then let's make it last," they replied, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. We stood there in silence for a long moment, letting Paris hold us, letting the city breathe its magic into us. The world outside didn't matter. The future didn't matter. There was only this, only us, only now. And as the night settled over the city, I realized that some walks in Paris aren't just about the streets you walk. They're about the moments you carry with you forever. The morning air was soft, yet heavy with the inevitability of goodbye. We met at the Pont Neuf, the oldest bridge in Paris, where countless lovers had said their farewells before us. The Seine glistened beneath the early sunlight, reflecting the city in a million fractured pieces, just like the swirl of emotions in my chest. "I wish I didn't have to leave," they said, voice trembling slightly. "But this opportunity, I can't ignore it." I nodded, my throat tight. "I know. I just wish things could be different." We stood in silence, hands brushing but not quite touching. The world seemed to hold its breath, the city waiting for us to decide how to say goodbye. "Paris gave us this," I whispered. "It gave us every street, every rooftop, every moment together. And no matter where you go, that won't change." They stepped closer, eyes glistening. "You've made this city unforgettable for me. More than that, you've made my heart unforgettable." And then, slowly, deliberately, we leaned in, sharing a kiss that was everything words could not capture. Gentle yet full of longing, fleeting yet eternal. The kind of kiss that carried memories of rain-soaked streets, hidden bookshops, rooftop gardens, and midnight walks. Pulling back slightly, they rested their forehead against mine. "I don't know when I'll see you again," they said softly. "Maybe we won't," I admitted. "But maybe that's okay. Some loves are meant to be memories, perfect and untouchable." We held each other for a moment longer, letting the river below reflect our hearts, letting Paris cradle us in its timeless embrace. Finally, they stepped back, giving me one last look that said everything: gratitude, love, and the hope that this wasn't the end of our story, only a new chapter. And then, slowly, they walked away, leaving me on the bridge with the city stretching endlessly before me. I watched until their figure faded into the morning haze, carrying a piece of Paris and a piece of me with them forever. Years had passed since that morning on Pont Neuf. Paris had changed. New cafes, new shops, new faces on the streets. But in my heart, it remained exactly the same. Every corner, every rooftop, every hidden garden still whispered their name, still carried the memory of our time together. I found myself wandering along the Seine, just as I had that first evening. The bridges, the water, the golden light of the setting sun. All of it brought back flashes of laughter, whispered secrets, and the warmth of a hand that had once held mine so perfectly. I stopped at the bookshop we had discovered on a rainy day. It was still there, tucked behind its faded green door, filled with the scent of old pages and quiet stories. I ran my fingers along the shelves, remembering the hours we had spent hiding from the rain, sharing secrets no one else could hear. Paris wasn't just a city to me anymore. It had become a collection of moments, snapshots of a love that had been fleeting, but intense, perfect in its impermanence. I smiled as I thought of the rooftops, the hidden corners, the late-night walks, and the kisses under the stars. Those moments had shaped me, taught me what it meant to truly connect, to truly feel. Sometimes, I wondered where they were now. Did they think of me when the wind carried the scent of chestnuts in autumn? Did they remember the rooftops, the bridges, the secret gardens we had shared? And sometimes, I imagined a quiet reunion, a chance encounter in a crowded Parisian street, a glance, a smile, and the city falling away, leaving just us and the memories we had made. Even if that never happened, I knew one thing. Paris had given me a love I would never forget. And that in itself was enough. Because sometimes, love isn't about forever. Sometimes it's about a single chapter, written in the streets, the rooftops, and the secret gardens of Paris, that stays with you for a lifetime. And whenever I think of Paris now, I don't see the monuments. I see them. Their smile by the Seine, their laughter in a hidden cafe, their hand brushing mine under the glow of the Eiffel Tower. Paris had given me magic, and it had given me them. Months later, I returned to Paris on my own, hoping to recapture the magic. Walking along the Seine, I stumbled upon a small art market. Among the crowd, I saw them, sketching quietly under a canvas tent. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the years melted away. The city had changed, but the connection remained. We spent the afternoon together, talking about the years apart, laughing at the small absurdities of life, and sharing new sketches. Paris reminded us again why our story had begun here. The city had a way of bringing hearts back together. Rain fell gently that evening, soaking the streets. We ran into a tiny cafe for shelter, just like the first rainy day years ago. Sitting across from each other, watching the drops race down the window, we realized how much we had missed these simple moments. Their laughter, once familiar, felt like home. We wandered through Montmartre, rediscovering alleys and hidden staircases. In a quiet square, they revealed a small sketchbook filled with drawings of the city and me. I laughed and touched the pages, overwhelmed by nostalgia. "You remembered everything," I said softly. They smiled. How could I forget? Every detail mattered. Every moment mattered. That night, atop a hidden rooftop overlooking Paris, we shared our deepest fears and dreams. Confessions long held back spilled out, and the air between us became electric. We realized that distance and time had only deepened our bond. The city below shimmered like a promise, echoing our hearts. We faced a decision. New opportunities threatened to separate us again. But this time, we chose each other without hesitation. Paris brought us together. But love keeps us together, they whispered. We promised to pursue life's adventures side by side, knowing the city would always be our witness. Walks along the Seine, hidden bookshops, rooftops glowing under lantern light. Paris was no longer just a city. It was a living memory, a witness to our love. And as we stood hand in hand, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle in the night, I realized that some loves are timeless, and some cities, Paris most of all, make them eternal.